Well, I've seen some photos. They also have the Iranian and Ukraine's NATO facility.
These people are morons. No, not your audience. I'm talking about Scott Bessent. Sorry.
That's a good start. That's a perfect start for a
We'll
Tuesday.
We'll start off sounding like we're insulting everybody who's listening or watching.
That as well, but perfect starting, getting Scott Bessent, smacked.
Yeah.
What were you hearing? Because I was hearing the background, but it was very low for me.
Trump's doing one of his, monkey shows, the cabinet meetings. And so Scott Bessent was talking about the tariffs and the fact that the Trump calculations are it's gonna make so much money, so big. That's the only way they know how to talk. And disputing the Congressional Budget Office, which says, no, you're only going to raise maybe $2.8 trillion, which is a lot of money, but it's not going to, put a dent, if the CBO is right, put a dent in the U.S. Budget deficit.
That's one thing that people have a hard time figuring out, when you're talking about a budget deficit in the United States, we're talking about a hell lot of money. So some billions here and some billions there, even $1 trillion.
The debt to GDP ratio is, the United States owes more than it makes. In other words, it's upside down. The impact of the tariffs is, I believe, going to be significant and detrimental within the United States. And I base that, I got one data point on that. A neighbor who is an importer of sporting goods that, he has them manufactured, but they're manufactured in China. And he was saying that, he got hit with a $150,000 tariff bill that, they didn't have the money. They hadn't budgeted. They hadn't set it aside. And he says, so it's slowing business. It's going to hurt them. It's going to make sales go down, so they're going to sell less. So, it's really having a negative impact. And, Trump is just such an arrogant dumbass that there's no talking to him about it.
There is a point that the United States needs to consume less. That's a fact. But I don't think we did this in Brazil, and we had a very hard crisis at the end. It was not perhaps later on you can have some positive fruits from that, but you cannot just go breaking business like that. It's not productive. It's not useful.
Again, when you promise to get to, if you run a campaign claiming that you're going to bring spending under control, then you get it into office and you immediately increased the defense budget to over $1 trillion. Like I said, he's a fraud. It's unfortunate. A lot of people put hopes that he was going to be actually, do what he promised to do, but he's been doing exactly the opposite. And we've especially seen that now with the whole Jeffrey Epstein. Oh, there's no client list. Oh, for God's sake.
What island? What's Epstein?
Yeah,
What's
island?
an Epstein?
No. It's either that Trump is on those tapes and is compromised, or somebody that, or a group of somebodies that are friends with him or have influence with him are being protected. There's also the CIA aspect to this, because it's commonly believed that Mossad, excuse me, was behind this, but it would not surprise me that there was a CIA angle as well. And so they're trying to protect, cover up the intelligence aspects of this, because they were using it for blackmail.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that was the entire point of Epstein's files anyway. From the beginning, it was a blackmailing operation, as it was exposed to the world previously. Oh, we had a CNN anchor who said that she had the list on her hands. Uh,
She had the what?
the list,
Oh,
like
she had the
3 months
list.
ago.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
list. Well,
What was that
it
list?
wasn't
Shopping?
it wasn't a CNN anchor. It was Pam Bond.
Fox News. Yeah, exactly.
Pam Bondi was being interviewed on Fox News, and she said she had it on her desk and was reviewing it. Disappeared, gone. Well, where the hell did that thing go?
Yeah, people can be very disorganized.
Yeah.
That's I was not going to start with that, but since we go there, Epstein's case in a whole. Uh, what do we know about it, and what has changed since what we knew about it? I mean, we knew that there was a very weird situation where the guy, auto self exited, and there was a very controversial stuff about that. And now the FBI just said no. He self-deleted. We cannot. We watched all the tapes. Cash Patel actually said that. I watched all the tapes from Epstein. I imagine with lotion, perhaps.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now there is no list, there is no tapes, there is no island, there is no Epstein. It was self exit.
Well, they put
Why?
out
Why?
they put out the tape that the videotape number one is missing, at least it's missing a minute, which is you can do a lot in a minute, number one, but it's not like the thing was focused on his cell. It was actually an entry exit point. Well, that's making the wrong point. They're saying, oh, nobody came in, so obviously it was suicide. How do you know somebody who was on the inside wasn't paid to do it? Huh?
So yeah, exactly. That
Okay.
that was my point about this.
Yeah.
I wanted to understand this tape because from my imagination, because I had very little data. The camera was, at least catching a corridor with doors,
Yeah.
and you could see the entrance but it's an entry point to a corridor that is not seen on the tape, right?
Yeah.
Is there, I don't know if you actually know from the inside of the panel system, but usually are there cameras that focus on the doors, or just those?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
That. Yeah, I think it's just it's specific to each site. So this is Rikers Island. I have no idea, but what they put out, and that's their base. Oh yeah, there's nothing there. What's surprising is that Kash Patel, who's the head of the FBI, has really become such a tool of where he's saying that number one priority is Israel. Are you kidding me? What about America first? Israel first? And that's where he's coming from. And then, they're trying to criminalize protests against this, decision by people who want to protest Donald Trump's decision to be the whore of Israel is criminalized. That's wrong. But that's where we are. I think America is in big trouble, and it's unfortunate that Trump has become so delusional, really out of touch with reality on several things.
So I guess MIGA was not make Iran great after all, was it?
Yeah.
Make Israel.
Make Israel great again.
Yeah.
Israel's never been great. But Israel's become a horror show. It is It's like it's the Jewish version of Nazism.
Yeah, I watched you on the judge. You mentioned this on this clip. Who was that guy? Minister of Israel. Just he yes,
He's a prime minister. He was just a member of parliament.
a member of parliament.
Yeah.
Just basically saying that all kids, everyone, women, children, they are all Hamas, all
Yeah.
terrorists.
Yeah.
And you pointed out, you put a little pussy mustache on the guy, a uniform, German uniform.
Yeah. And put him at
People
Auschwitz.
would be.
Same thing. Same thing. It was truly shocking. But yeah, again, it's their mentality, and it's all based upon this notion. I somebody wrote me in my blog say, "Oh, you were wrong. You told the judge that the Old Testament, the Torah, was written 2,500 years ago. It was written by Moses."
Himself using a big pen.
Yeah. He's hey God, I made a mistake here. You got any whiteout, or can you give me an eraser, or did he do? Yeah, was he using quill? Where did he get the ink? Or was God having him sitting there chiseling it into stone? Speak slower. I can't tap any harder. I mean, come on. It just. Was there a historical character of Moses? Yeah, probably. But, when we start bullshitting ourselves like this, and then take that nonsense and use it to justify acts today, we're into a realm of mental illness. And it's one thing that those of us who are raised in a Western Christian culture, and what I mean by that is that, you grow up, you celebrate Christmas, you celebrate Easter, even if you're not religious, those holidays have been, become important. And so and again, you see the world through that lens. Well, try to put yourself in the mindset that you never knew any of this, that you've been raised in India or China as a Hindu or a Buddhist. And, you have no understanding of what mindset comes from that. In fact, I don't know that much at all about Hinduism or Buddhism because it hasn't been part of my cultural experience. So let's recognize that the same applies with Christianity. And unfortunately, the whole Jewish Christian thing is at the very, very foundation of this horror show that's going on in Israel, where you get these people who claim, that God gave this land to us. It says so in the book. Oh, so
in the book that I wrote.
Yeah. But the impressive about the religious views. Oh no, well, I don't believe in God. What? Think of this is how crazy it is. You've got Zionists who believe that this land is theirs, historical, because God gave it to them, but they don't believe in God, and they don't believe that the Jewish scriptures, the religious observances. They got news for you. The only way you can justify claiming that land is to believe the nonsense that's in those first 5 books of the Old Testament or the Torah. The thing, one of the great contradictions in the whole thing is, when Moses gets the 10 Commandments, thou shalt make no graven image. Don't make something physical to reflect me, because I'm beyond physical. That's the message of God. And I can sort of buy into that. And then you get into the book Deuteronomy. They got chapter after chapter about, yeah, hey, you're going to build this temple and this Ark of the Covenant, and man, it's got to have this much gold, and it's got to have this kind of wood, and that's all graven image, huh? And they got a whole book devoted to being a graven image builder. And then, we also see it in Christianity. Man, we build some magnificent churches. There are magnificent churches around the world. A lot of poor people. A lot of poor people. That money that was built to, festoon these incredible structures. I'm not faulting them. I'm glad they exist from a architectural standpoint, but it just reflects a priority of buildings over people, images, graven images over people. And if you're going to buy into this whole religious thing, then it's supposed to be people are the ones that are important. So, yeah, just you got me off on a rant. Sorry.
I'm used. We should call it a part of the show, Larry going on a rampage.
Yeah.
No, but one of the first thing when I arrived here in Italy, we went to spend Christmas in Rome.
Mm-hmm.
And we went to the Vatican. There was the mass of the Pope, all that. One of the first things that shocked me when I got there, and Rome is a very impressive city if you understand that this it's been there for 2,000 years or more. And the Vatican is a very impressive square. You have the road from Rome, the street that goes into the Vatican. When you are going from Rome to the Vatican, it's a road that you cross here in the Vatican.
Right.
At Christmas Eve, just outside, inside Italy, well, not the Vatican, inside Italy, this road, this street was fully packed with roofless people sleeping on the street, poor people. And I was looking at that was very contrasting to me. You see this magnificent thing, the Vatican is magnificent, and at the same time all the with this charity environment, and just outside of it, and it's outside because you cannot go in, not because it could be there. No, you cannot go in. So just outside of it, like waiting for all this grace, all this charity, is this amount of poor people sleeping on the street without food. That was a very shocking image for me.
Yeah.
Which I already say, I'm not a very religious person, but I was raised in a Catholic country, so that is not what I would be expecting to see. And one interesting thing, the judge showed that video from that senator from the United States talking about
Ted Cruz. Yeah.
Ted Cruz, exactly, talking about Israel having the right. And what called my attention was the language. Two countries cannot own the same real estate. So that's not land. That's not living. It's real estate.
Yeah.
And this kind of language is very annoying for me because it sounds very. It's nothing about people. Again, it's nothing about people. It's nothing about human beings. It's about real estate.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate. Well, moving back, forward, but back a little bit to BRICS.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you have been following this subject about the former Brazilian president Jair Bolsonaro and his son, who now is Eduardo Bolsonaro, who is a Brazilian deputy, and now it's on the United States. Because he's been persecuted by the Supreme Court of Brazil, call it like that. And just 2 days ago, Trump wrote a Truth Social post pointing out, and I sent you the print,
right?
Speaking out in favor of Bolsonaro. Well, 1 day later, we had what's the girl's name? Tishkanovskaya, the Belarusian, government in exile.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know her name.
Yeah, it's Tishkanovskaya or something like that. I think is that the name. Uh, Crying out loud that well, I want a post to myself as well. So, what do you see from this sudden, moving from Trump, start to, pointing to Brazil, and then at just in during the BRICS summit, speaking out on 10% tariffs to any country that aligns with BRICS.
Well,
How-
let's separate those out.
Okay.
The the political blood sport in Brazil, first with Lula being sent to prison, and then exonerated or released, and then the efforts to prosecute Bolsonaro is just this is an unfortunate, I think, characteristic of the Brazilian political system. And Trump clearly identifies with what Lula is trying to do to Bolsonaro because it reflects in some aspects what Biden tried to do to Trump. And it's one thing to attack a candidate based on their actual policies. It's another thing to try to create charges and create crimes that were not there. So, I separate that out. I think, Trump coming to the defense of Bolsonaro. Now, Trump claims that Bolsonaro's is the most popular candidate now in Brazil. I don't know if that's true or not. But,
It's debatable. I would
yeah,
not say it's not true, but it can be debatable.
what we could say probably with confidence is that there's a big split within Brazil's public. There's no clear consensus. I think that's probably fair to say.
That's more than fair. That's spot on.
And that's not healthy for the future. But with respect to BRICS, I give Trump credit that at least he recognizes that BRICS represents a fundamental threat to the U.S. controlled, U.S. dominated international financial system. And the reality is that now BRICS, the BRICS countries combined, when you measure GDP in terms of purchasing power parity, which is a more accurate measurement of a country's wealth, these 21 BRICS countries account for 21, almost 50% of the world economic activity. That's significant. So when you got 21 countries that account for almost 50%, the G7 countries, which that includes China as well, in that they account for 30%. So BRICS already is surpassing G7. And in terms of population size, they represent 55% of the world's population. So this is this is significant. And Trump making those threats, he's a dumbass. That he's doing by making those kinds of threats, he's actually reinforcing why BRICS is doing what BRICS is doing, because they said, we're tired of getting bossed around and bullied by you. We're tired of you threatening us with sanctions. We're tired of you holding us hostage to the dollar. We're going to find some other way so we're not under your thumb. And then he, opens up his big mouth and reinforces why they're doing what they're doing. I'm going to impose 100% tariffs. It was 100% like a month ago. 100% tariffs. That's down to 10%. And, the BRICS countries just look at him and say, God, you're annoying. Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's just, I had actually, foolishly held out hopes that this time around with the Trump presidency, we'd see something different, a little more, that his brush with death, his overcoming of the various lawsuits brought against him would have brought him some, humility and some, grace. Oh, nah, you kidding? He's worse than ever. He's like a 3-year-old with attention deficit disorder. Here to here.
That's perfect definition. That is exactly true, and yeah, he's not just more dangerous, but he's also in a hurry to do
Yeah,
stuff,
just
and that's not
because
good.
he's on the TV here in the background now. So when he first imposed the tariffs, he said, they're going to have to pay it now. Now he's saying, oh, no. The deadline was always August 1st. I'm going to stop the war in Ukraine in 24 hours. Hey, Mr. President, it's been 6 months. Oh, I was just joking with that. That was sarcasm. As I said, you can't take anything he says and rely on it. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's it's hard to deal like that in a situation that we have a very conflictuous world. Dealing with that is very hard and dangerous. And since we go there, I would like to finish today, Larry, asking you about the Pezeshkian interview with Tucker.
Yeah.
Did you watch it?
Yeah. I thought, Pezeshkian, there had been I'd read some commentary about it before I watched it, and it was somewhat negative against Pezeshkian. But I thought Pezeshkian did a pretty good job, and he made it very clear. What fascinates me is this stuff. Oh, the Iranians have assassination hit squads, or they're going to target Trump. Let's just look at the reality. Which country has killed more leaders and officials of the other country? Well, that would be the United States. We've been killing more. We've got the blood of Iranians on our hands, not the opposite way around. And the biggest, the United States like to say that Iran's a big sponsor of terrorism. And what do we cite as our evidence for that? Primarily the fact that Iranian militias in Iraq that had relations with Iran may have had some assistance or support from Iran were launching attacks on U.S. military forces. And that's terrorism. Well, by God, if that's the definition of terrorism, what the hell do you call what we're doing in Ukraine? Giving them weapons, giving them armament, giving them intelligence. So if that's the standard, then we've established without a doubt that the United States is the number one sponsor of terrorism in the world. But we don't, hey, why indulge in logic and consistency? So, I think Pezeshkian made, he pointed out, Iran has not attacked and invaded any other country in 200 years. Yeah, United States has attacked and invaded 200 countries in the last 20 years.
Last week,
yeah.
for my account.
Yeah. So that inconsistency is, I think Pezeshkian did a good job pointing it out. Now, it's not going to change the minds of many Americans, but it's important to get it on the record.
Yeah, well, the same Tucker, when he interviewed Trump bragged about the assassination, that he was all his stuff as the assassination of Soleimani.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, it's pretty nice when you call people terrorists and you say, "Yeah, we kill terrorists," but it's not the real thing. It's not the real deal. So just lying and bragging about lying and assassinating officers from another country. That's not nice. That's not nice. Tucker should have that in mind on the
Yeah.
interview. To the merit, yes, I even thought that Pezeshkian was really contained on that. He was not someone that was like, you know, you guys are. He was very calm and s- even gentle at some parts, moving the United States, removing the United States from the situation and put the all the fault, let's say, on Israel.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. Well, the problem with Trump is he's schizophrenic or has multiple personality disorder because and Medvedev has just commented on this. Medvedev says, okay, let's see. Trump has said, I'm satisfied with the conversation with Putin. Then just today he said, I'm disappointed with the conversation with Putin. And then the other day, we are not supplying new weapons to Ukraine. And then yesterday, we will supply more weapons to Ukraine for defense. So Medvedev's calling him the seesaw president, up, down, up, down, up, down, back, forth. God, he's
Medvedev is one of the most spot on comments on the
well,
internet. I hate
yeah,
to say that, but it's true.
yeah. So like I said, Trump, foreign leaders have got to look at Trump and say, we don't know who we're talking to today. There was, I think there was a movie out called Sybil, and the Sybil dealt with this woman who had like 15, 20 different personalities.
Yeah.
They're going to Sybil 2, starring Donald Trump.
I'll have to make an AI image of that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Larry, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, do the god Janus, but impose. Janus has got the two faces, one looking right, one looking left. In Roman, I guess, in Roman mythology, it was looking back, looking to history, and looking forward to the future. But Trump's just all over the map.
He is all over the map. That I can promise. That I fully believe. Larry, I'm sorry. I said that was the last question, but you mentioned Ukraine, and I just remember that you said something very interesting about Russian satellites disabling.
Well, that it was this Stanislav Kropinski, is that his name? He's an American, but he's also of Russian heritage and lives in Russia now. And he posted up something based on the RAND report, claiming that the Russian satellites were now turning off U.S. satellites and that they were controlling the drones on the ground. And he linked it to a RAND report, but I looked that RAND report up. It didn't say any such thing. So, I don't know what's true on that front.
Okay, so it's just rush news that
it may have been just
got confused.
An information operation, put out the propaganda. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? Yeah, Ukraine. Do we have anything on the front lines that is worth talking about?
Well, no. I mean, Russia's making steady advances all along the front, and the Ukrainian army is collapsing quicker than many thought. So this thing actually could be over, very much by the end of the year.
Yeah, let's wait for it. Let's
Yep.
wait for it. Yeah, Larry Johnson, my good friend, and everybody that I didn't have the opportunity to say hi today. We enter on that fantastic mode. Just remember, everybody, to follow Larry's on all his channels that he participates, including Countercurrents, and follow his sonar21.com,
Yep.
where you're going to find all his participations on these channels as well. All the links are in the description. Remember to like, share, subscribe to the channels, to the IDM, subscribe to Larry's channels, and to his newsletters on Sonar21. And see you guys next week. Larry, thank you very much, my friend. See you.
All right, senor. Hey, thanks for us. Hello. Take care.
Muito obrigado. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.